Holy moly, it is storming big time. So I guess we're going to have anywhere from 3 to 4 inches in the next 48 hours and winds up to 60 miles an hour. This is pretty incredible. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty intense day. I can't wait to see what happens here. Not too unlike the economy right now. The storm is brewing and nobody knows what the hell is going on. And I had a comment that said, is there any good news? Holy crap, it's shaking the truck. This is great. Ask me if there's any good news out there. Like, how come I never report on any good news? And, that's like fear. Like, that's almost accusing me of being a fear monger. And I have said it many times in the past that you should not live in fear. Don't live in fear. That's the one way that you will definitely bring in negativity into your life. It'll bring in downfalls to your abilities. Do not live in fear. It's the worst place you could possibly be. But you have to be concerned. You have to understand the dangers of the environment that you are in. And I related a lot down to being like out there on that river. Out here is the Columbia River. It's right outside my windshield right now. And right now, if you were out there in a small craft, you would be in a dangerous position when you're in a storm like this and you're out there and those waves are crashing all over your bow and you don't know which direction you need to be going. You can end up in a lot of trouble. Same thing with the economy. If you do not know what it is that you are doing with your money and you are just out there on a whim throwing it around trying to figure out how it is that you're going to survive, most likely you're going to find yourself pretty well damaged from that. You never know. You might just end up with a lot of success and have no problems with it. So when I look out there and I start seeing the dangers and I'm reporting on them, it's not to try and scare people. It's not to try and, put you in some sort of state of fear that you're going to be like, worried about the whole world coming to an end tomorrow. That's not the way it's supposed to go down. What you're supposed to do is see those dangers and try and navigate around them. See if those dangers actually relate to you. Everybody is convinced right now of a recession in the future. Everybody's convinced of Federal Reserve interest rate hikes. Everybody is convinced of, like, war taking place. When you start putting all these things together, people start behaving in different fashions with their money. It's pretty obvious. And to think that there's not going to be a downturn is, I guess I shouldn't say that, because there is actually a pretty good article I was reading. I'll leave a link down in the description for it. Because really, we could go either way with this market. We could have so much fear around the world that everybody is so scared of their sovereign currencies that they start diving into the United States. We could actually see interest rates go down on fear. And if they don't go into the U.S. debt, they could go into the U.S. stock market. They could go into U.S. real estate. They could get out of whatever it is that they feel is risky outside of the United States and get into the safe haven, if you believe that the United States is a safe haven. Because that's typically where everybody would go, right? But now we're starting to see gold move. Gold moves up along with the dollar. Right? Is this not something that we said was going to happen? That there could be a fear that is so grand around the world that everybody gets out of their sovereign currency, but yet they're also scared of the dollar, so they'll move into gold. That's what's happening here. People are starting to get so fearful that the dollar is going to lose its hegemony, right? Because you can already see it taking place between Russia and China, that they're setting up trade, amongst each other with the transaction systems being established. The United States is exiting them out of the SWIFT system. This is actually going to be dollar destabilizing. As people start to realize that, especially nations around the world and, the globe realizes that the United States is losing its power, China is gaining it as far as a global economic power, setting up energy trades with Russia. It just takes a little wedge and you just keep tapping it. China is all over the world investing in infrastructure. You can see the things happening right now. So when I say that the dollar is going to get strong at some point, I can see it. I can see it happening. Is that going to last forever? Absolutely not. At some point, it's going to spike just before it falls. As everybody tries to get out of the dollar, they need to get a hold of dollars. It's just, you think about it, there's contracts written all over the world that are due in US dollars. Just look at what's going on with the properties over in China, like Evergrande. These guys sold debt in US dollars. Now those debts are coming due, and trying to get a hold of those US dollars is increasingly difficult, as they would have to roll over that debt to new debt, and people do not want to loan them any more dollars. And this is happening a lot around the world. You can see here in the United States that there is a slowdown in economic activity. And the slowdown in economic activity, you can see it taking place with the mortgage lenders out there as they begin to lay off thousands of people. This is a destruction of credit. Now, when you think about like the Federal Reserve, and if they were to go into a balance sheet reduction, that's them no longer purchasing treasuries or actually allowing treasuries to mature and roll off. At the same time, there's this huge global turmoil as the threat of war scares the hell out of everybody. Well, that could find the United States Treasury having a buyer from the globe. There is so many ways this market could go. And if you are not, if you have picked a direction, nope, it's going to do this and that's it. That's the only way it's going to happen. You may be right, but you could be wrong. And if you do not understand all the different paths, what I do is I try to think out all the different possible scenarios that could happen and then follow the path of least resistance. Because that's generally what's going to end up happening. I don't try to be the fearmonger out there, but you have to know the dangers that are out there. You have to be able to navigate. In order to survive the experience, you have to understand the dangers. Now, with that being said, people ask me all the time, well, what's the good news? Well, the good news is that this is an incredible time for earning money. You can make money in so many ways in this world. And the idea that, gosh, I got so many articles with thoughts running through my head. I was even reading an article on how the younger generation no longer needs capitalism, or they blame capitalism, or capitalism is some sort of fault of or some sort of burden upon society, because you have to acquire things. You have to get the house and the car and this American dream, and this idea of pursuing this American dream forces you into working a lifestyle that you may not have a passion for, but instead you're just driven for success so that you can acquire these things that are American dream. And the new generations of people are more interested in going after passions as opposed to going for what is going to be successful. Well, the problem with going for passions is that you may not be successful. And just because you're passionate about, say, smelling flowers, doesn't mean that there's going to be an occupation for you to do that. Sometimes you have to understand that you don't have a life in which that you 100% enjoy. Sometimes you have to take a beating in order to have the stability of living in a house, having food, driving a car. Go and read Cantillon's essay on economic theory, and you can see that the people with the least education, the least abilities, the least of whatever, work their hardest just to simply eat. Food, conveniences, and pleasures of life, that's wealth. Think about how you get those things. Are those things acquired from your own efforts? Are you providing those things for yourself, or does it come on a form of an app or from some government entity? There's never been a time in history that you could be so successful as you can right now. Take this channel, for example. I hardly have a high school education. I kid you not, guys. I barely graduated high school. It was a surprise to everybody. Nobody thought I was actually going to do it. And here, a reading disability. I have a hard time reading anything beyond 10 minutes. But yet I'm out here every day putting out macroeconomic videos, running what I feel is the best of them, speaking on stage at at events like the Rebel Capitalist, these things are possible for anybody out there. It's not like it's some secret. You just have to do it. You have to go out there and push yourselves and make it all happen. But sometimes you have to do things that you just don't want to do. And sometimes your passions don't lead you into having a YouTube channel in which you can talk and have a conversation with people with. Sometimes you have to show up every day and pack lumber and wear holes out in your shoulders. Have back issues from the years of nailing roofing down. All those things weren't fun. There was nothing fun about it. But the reward from the punishment that you got from that I got from it was so valuable. I use it every day. All the skills and trade and everything that I did, it pays me back now as I do my sales for building supplies. I'm gonna head into work, guys, and hopefully we get some customers today with this major storm that's ripping through here. But I guess I just want to leave you with that don't live in fear idea. You know, I've said it before. When you live in fear, what you are doing is you are pushing the energy into your extremities. You're pushing it into your hands and your feet. You're ready to fight or flight. You're in a constant defensive mode. And when you do that, you're putting out a negative energy. And now, when you walk into a room, you can feel the energy. You know if people are happy or sad, right? You can just see it on their faces. You can feel it from their presence of being there. And if that's the way you live, that's the kind of people that you're going to invite, are defensive, negative people. You bring that into center. You focus in on the things that are good to you. Focus on the things that are important to you, right? You think of love, you think of happiness, you think of peace and calm. And you bring that energy to your core, and it becomes positive, and you start exuding this positive energy to people, and pretty soon positive people start coming towards you, and you start having positive experiences. See, it's not a secret out there. Good news, bad news doesn't matter, right? Some people live off of bad news, right? What, you make your money off the evening news, right? But when you focus your energy to the center, when you focus your energy into what's important and positive and good, and you have love in your heart, and you can move forward with that energy, then the positive things come to you. It doesn't matter what environment you're in. All right, I got to go into work. Uneducated economist. You guys let me.